Well, hey everyone, it is 12:01, so I think we'll go ahead and get started. Before I kind of get started, Noelle, can you, I just unmuted you, can you see the screen okay?
I can.
Okay. I want to go ahead and get started. And first, thank everyone for attending. We will do our best to try and keep this to actually about 30 minutes, maybe 45 at the most. I know everyone's kind of busy and want to try and keep this in a reasonable time. One thing I do want to point out is we are recording this, so we'll have a recording of this so that you could see it afterwards or even share it. But before I get into anything, Noelle, can you do some of the housekeeping things?
Yeah, sure. So at the bottom of your screen, you will see a chat feature and you will see a Q&A feature. I will only be monitoring the Q&A. That's where you can type in your question and then I can relay it to Mike. I think he still wants me to hold him to the end of the webinar, but if something is pertinent to that specific thing, I will try my best to kindly interrupt him. So yeah, so only use the Q&A. Chat, yesterday's webinar, a lot of people were using that. I really would prefer everyone to use the Q&A just because I have a little bit more control over that and who I respond to. So yeah, if everyone could do that, and happy webinar.
Awesome, thank you, Noelle. And I do have a little bit of a change to what you just shared. I am going to be asking for your questions pretty early on here. So we won't wait till the end on this one. I do have to mention before I get into some introductions that typically when we do webinars like this, that they're pretty controlled for us. We're used to doing them. We do webinars every single day. It's like nonstop for us. So we're like old pros at it. Although I will say, in a panelist type setting like this, we're not. So we may have some hiccups. That's okay. That'd be part of the fun. I do want to note that we had some video issues. We intended to have video for all the panelists. For whatever reason, it's not working with Zoom right now. Maybe how we had it set up, I don't know, but there's no video. So with that said, I do want to introduce who's the other people, the other panelists that are on this webinar today. We do have Harley on the webinar. He runs our technical support. For those of you that are Delta customers, you may have seen him on video. I have him on here because Harley does videos like nonstop for us. So he's like an old pro at doing Facebook Live and different things like that. So he's on here just in case you have some questions, but also really just to hear kind of the conversation. Then additionally, we do have two realtors that have joined us. Sean has not been able to come in, so I don't know if he's having some issues getting in, but let me go ahead and unmute you, Melanie, and then you, Steve. And Melanie, could you go ahead and just introduce yourself and where you're located?
Yes, sorry. Hi, I'm Melanie, and I am a realtor with Cutler Real Estate, and I'm part of the Clark Kidder team, and my colleague and I, we do a lot of videos, so I'm happy to be on to help share some tips, and I have been in real estate for about 5 years.
Okay, awesome, thank you. And then Steve, I think you're there. I think you can hear us. I didn't expect you till a little bit later, so I'm happy you could join us on time. Can you hear me?
I can. Can you hear me?
Awesome, yes we can. Can you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Sure. I'm Steve Merkel. I'm with Cutler Real Estate. I am out of the Fairlawn office. I work the Northeast Ohio market. I've been licensed since 1988. So I'm a grizzled veteran, and I am actually looking forward to holding my first virtual open house this weekend via Facebook Live.
Awesome. So we do have, you can see Sean there. And I do have to mention, you tell who the realtors are, the nice professional, ours are professional too, but they're a little bit different, but who the realtors are. If Sean joins us later, I'll have him introduce himself. But what I wanted to do here, and actually before I really get going here, what I want to do is mention a couple things with this. One, as you could probably tell, a lot of us are working remote right now. I'm in Ohio as well. We're working remote, so it's a little bit different. I have a newfound respect for all of you realtors who work from home quite a bit. It's not as easy as it sounds. It's not the logistics, it's just the interruptions that you can have. So anyhow, so we're working from home, and here's why I want to do this. And I want to mention one more thing before we get into kind of the Q&A and all these questions. What I want to mention is at the end, I'm going to have an announcement because we're going to be doing some more webinars somewhat similar to this next week that are educational on other platforms that you can use for live open houses. In addition, we're going to have kind of training on using Facebook Live, and we'll be doing those via Zoom as well. So you don't have to be a Delta client to learn things from those. They should be very informative. But those, I'll announce what those are, what the platforms are at the end of this, because there's some pretty neat things out there that you can leverage, even outside of Facebook Live. So I would like to just educate you on all that. Also, I do want to mention one thing. Here's why I think this is really important right now, is because for a lot of us, this is kind of the norm right now that we might have to deal with a little bit as we're dealing with COVID-19. We don't know how long that we'll be dealing with this. I'm pretty optimistic. I think it's going to be kind of short, but regardless, I think we're going to have some long-standing ramifications because of this. You could start thinking through, your customers, your clients. I guarantee you will have some percentage, although it might be small, some percentage in the weeks and months to come that I think will be hypersensitive to to germs, or to, they'll have a lasting impact a little bit from going through this. So even if things get quote unquote back to normal, I think you're going to need to have this, this tool in your quiver of arrows, so to speak, where you could do a virtual open house. So I think this is really important, and what a great tool that you could use even just moving forward. So with that said, I do want to mention that please go ahead and submit any questions that you might have regarding doing a virtual open house, especially as it relates to Facebook Live. So Melanie has done some. Stephen's getting ready to do his first, but I think he can share some insight too, just from his perspective of getting going with that. But we want to have some discussion, and I've got quite a few questions here already, but I do want to have some discussion, and then we'll get into some tips and all that stuff. So we'll do the discussion, then I have a whole bunch of tips and suggestions. So let's kind of get going with this. And let me just mention too, Noelle, if there's anything that you need to address, just go ahead and kind of hop right in. Or if there's a question that you think needs asked, go ahead and hop in with that question. But let me go ahead and start now, and I'll try and unmute. Do you have something, Noelle?
Nope.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and unmute both Melanie and Stephen. I'll leave you unmuted. You can mute yourself if you need to, but I want to just start asking some questions. There, I think you should be unmuted, Steve. Not yet. Oh, maybe I just muted you. There, now you're unmuted. So both of you are unmuted. And I do want to go through I guess what your experiences are, and really this is probably to you, Melanie, just in general, what can you say your experience has been doing a Facebook Live or a quote unquote virtual open house?
Well, we had our company does open house blitzes. And so we had our open house scheduled, and it was probably that first weekend where we were not sure what was going on with COVID-19. And so I did hold the house. It was open. However, there were 2 groups that came through live. And then afterwards, I was like, okay, I'm going to do the virtual. I was hearing, our company suggesting to do that. So I decided to go live once basically the time was over for the actual open house. So that's why I decided to do that at that time, because I was like, I would like to get this information out, for the house. So after I did the live, I had probably almost 900 views on that live video from, I don't know, it was probably only a couple minutes long.
Wow. So now, was that something? Now, you use Facebook Live, obviously. And did you do that?
Yes.
Yeah. So did you do that from a business page or just your personal Facebook account?
Actually, I did it from my business page.
Okay.
And something that I think is important with when you're doing video, especially this, I think really our goal is to show off our personality. So I always start when I do any video with with it on me. And I introduce myself, and then I move, because on Facebook Live, you can have it on you, then you just push the button and it goes back to, where you can see the house. And then I was just walking through the house, and I found it helpful to have like notes with you. So all the updates that the owner did, talking about the local school district, the community, the parks that are nearby, like things like that, I find to be helpful. So doing some of your, do some research before, so make sure that you have that information to share with people as you're walking through the house.
So really for you then, you were doing it as a virtual walkthrough, if you will.
Yes. So I was showing, and then there was people, as you know, with live, people were popping in so they could ask questions and things like that. So that's the fun part about live. You can see who's watching and talk with them right then.
Yeah. So did you get questions?
I didn't get any questions at that time. I had people saying, hi, it's a beautiful house, things like that.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's what probably a lot of the experience would be, not necessarily where you get specific questions, because I've watched some Facebook Lives and that seems to be the interaction where it's like people will give you the thumbs up or the heart, the like, or some comment, hey, great to see the house.
Yes.
So that sounds like what you got. Then also, I think, Sean, you've been able to join?
I have.
Awesome. So Sean is with us now as well. And Sean, we just started, and what I had asked then that Melanie was answering was just, what is your experience running a virtual open house or a Facebook Live at an open house? So maybe you could answer that question, like what your experience has been.
I think it's a learning experience.
Before you do that,
hey,
one thing, Sean, I'm sorry, go ahead and introduce yourself since you missed that. Introduce to everyone who you are.
I am Sean Simpson. I am a Cutler agent in Powell, Ohio, and I run a team of 6. And we have recently started doing more of the Facebook Live virtual open house type thing. I would say it's been a learning experience from the very first time, just throwing one out there and walking through the house and hoping some people join. I think our biggest learning experience has been the need to pre-plan. I understand the importance of in-game experience, for lack of better words, but if you pre-plan it get some people to join beforehand, have some questions mapped out, have a game plan ready, almost like you would do any type of interview, any type of movie, have a storyboard ready to go. Plan it with announcements, advertise those announcements. And like I said, to us, I think the biggest thing is getting people that to be there, ask some friends, ask some other agents to be there. That way there is some interaction and it's not just a generic video walkthrough that you can see without doing live.
I think really good suggestions there. And I think the pre-planning, Melanie mentioned the same thing, that it was important to kind of have notes or have a plan in place of what you want to talk about or show. But I really like pre-setting up, here's some questions, or or having people tune in.
If anybody's been on a panel before, you always have those planned questions. If things get a little stagnant, you can use it to spur a conversation. But it is a great opportunity, and I think it's something we can learn about and learn with even after this, that a live video chat is a great way to showcase things that are not seeable in pictures and regular video. It's not a walkthrough. You can show a lot of great characteristics about a house that you just can't see in any other way. And I think it's something that we can use going forward as well.
Now, Sean, I want to pose the same question to you that I asked Melanie. Did you do your Facebook Live from your personal Facebook account or from a business page account?
We did it from a business page account that we run and then shared it to our personal accounts.
Okay.
But I've learned I think it's best to run it from a personal page and share it to the business page, like run it underneath the event. I don't know how everybody else is doing it, but we set it up as an actual event that you can advertise beforehand, opposed to just randomly going live. And then you can set that live on there. That way it's something that people can click on that event and see belowhand.
Yeah, and I think, and I will add to that too. I've seen other people doing Facebook Lives that I know that they're business people, even unrelated to real estate. Let's just say, for example, restaurant owners that are trying to hustle it right now, and I see them doing a Facebook Live from their personal, but then their business page interacts with them on there, and I thought that was a really good interaction. A good way to do it as well. So this is probably again, to Melanie and Sean, since Steve hasn't done one yet. I've got some questions for you in a minute, Steve, but what are some hurdles or what are some problems you've had doing Facebook Live? Anything that you guys have you guys had issues or anything you'd point out there?
Melanie, you want to go, or I can
go? I don't know actual problems. I guess I do think that in the future, as Sean said, is that definitely, because mine was, when I did this one, it was already a planned open house, face-to-face, and then I included the virtual with it because of the recent situation. But I think it's really, the next ones I do will definitely have the invite, the event be publicized, because we do publicize obviously all of our open houses. So just doing it that same way. So I think to get more activity and so people know that you're going to be live, I think that is something, because mine was just sort of spur of the moment because I was like, I need to get more people to see the house. So
yeah, I think one of the problems that we currently have is that just familiarity with it. I know people are very familiar with on Sunday at 1, Sunday at 2, they can walk into a house and see the house.
Mm-hmm.
So target market is a big issue. If you're going to advertise it, you got to get it in front of more people than your friends. And how do you go about doing that? Whether it's through other association groups and because I mean, it's not just about end user, it's about other agents being able to see it as well. So getting it out there and having people familiar with the platform is one thing. Multi-platform use is another issue that I've had. Obviously, I think most people are focusing on a Facebook aspect of this. Facebook is one avenue. So how do I take that from Facebook and also share it on the Twitters, the Instagrams of the world, where there's quite a bit of an audience out there as well. And I would say third right now, and obviously this is a short-term issue, but there is a slight sensitivity issue on it. We want to not act like we are thinking that real estate is above and beyond the current situation we're in. But at the same time, we need to serve and provide that opportunity to our clients and to other people's clients. So to be able to portray this as something that is an opportunity to see a house without exposing people to potential risk, opposed to being overly business focused and opportunistic.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point there that you just made, actually, Sean, is just the human side of this. I know we can get in business mode, all of us can, myself included, and just, I guess, acknowledging and realizing the situation and the human side of what's going on right now outside of a transaction of a property, so to speak. And I know I'm simplifying it, but I think that's really important to point out. The other thing too, that I think a big hurdle that I see right now is where a realtor would do let's say a Facebook Live with no pre-promotion, not get much activity, and say, well, it doesn't work. And I really do believe as much promotion needs to go into these as you would have a standard open house 6 months ago. You need to be promoting it, still sending out, if you send out e-cards or emails or you have a list, still promote it that way, how to tune in, all those things. I think that's a big key to success as well.
And let's not forget that that these are evergreen in a way. I mean, these are, You know, if you miss my open house from 1 o'clock to 3 o'clock on a Sunday, you can't go to that open house. However, if I do one on Facebook, I have the ability to expose people to that after the fact and share it.
So I do have a question then for both of you. Again, since you've run them, then I want to pull Steve into a question. But how long? Let's say we're talking a 100% virtual open house. How long would you recommend scheduling one for at this point? Obviously, you're not going to schedule it for 2 hours.
That is a good question. Sean, you have been running them more, I guess, systematic. So how long do you do yours?
I'm sorry, my dog's going crazy.
Oh,
here.
I'm sorry. Where's your dog?
Hey, Sean, that's okay. We're all working from home.
Exactly. I got 2 kids and a dog at home right now. I would say that they go as long as you need them to go. If you plan over that, you're going to have issues, but I would say keep it at 20, 30 minutes max.
Okay.
Yeah, and I would agree. So I do have a question, and Steve, I'll put this to all three of you. Steve, I think this is one to be pertinent to you as well, knowing your background. Someone did post a good question, and we've gotten a few good ones. Some of them I'm answering in later slides, but this is a good one here. Since you're doing basically a live open house, can the sellers be there? And I'll even throw in this: do you think they should be there, help and be part of the process, or should they not be included?
Wow, that's a great question. I've actually shared the event just like Melanie and Sean. I set mine up as an event, and I've actually shared that with the seller. I didn't really think about the ramifications of that. I just wanted to show them that we were thinking outside the box and providing an opportunity for people to view their home safely during the current situation. But wow, I could see that going both ways, but I think a discussion with the seller, depending on what kind of interactions we have, I don't think we would, and maybe going back to Melanie and Sean, since they actually held one, did you have any negative comments? Do you foresee any negative situations coming up that could upset the seller if they were on the live stream?
I have yet to have a negative comment, but it's probably because who have been on the live stream as well. There is obviously that risk involved, along with the fair housing risk of having somebody else there if they hear what's going on and want to be part of it. But I've yet to have any kind of negative feedback.
Yeah, I was actually thinking about that when earlier today. I'm like, oh, if this is all virtual, I'm like, what happened? Are the sellers going to be there? So, I mean, as you know, typically we don't have the sellers there. So I don't know the exact answer to that. I guess maybe it just depends on the situation. I don't know.
Yeah, and I think this is going to be one of those things that as an industry we'll be navigating here as we're doing more virtual open houses. As they become the normal right now. Also, virtual showings. You're going to see a rise in those where someone wants a showing of a property and they want it to be virtual, or it needs to be virtual, depending on your state, what you have going on. I'll touch on that in a little bit here. And one of the things I was thinking about, and Sean, my head was where what you had mentioned was some of the fair housing concerns. Fair housing, or then I always worry about some RESPA stuff. That's kind of where I guess my thinking was too. Do you even want them there? And I know from a sales experience, it's always good to control that experience. You like to control that. So but I think that's, at least at this point, unless there's any fair housing or RESPA or MLS guidelines, and I'll touch on that in a minute, unless there's anything that mandates that, it sounds like it's more of a personal preference.
Yeah, and I think I think some of it's being great is, you could put them on camera and say, hey, why did you buy the house? What drew you to this house? Because I know a lot of us speak in avatars of, you want to market to the people that are the one that you want to market to, the people that are likely to buy the house, which is similar to the reasons you bought that house. But being able to control that message, as you mentioned, Mike, is possibly the most important part of that.
Yeah, and if you're on a Facebook Live, make sure you know the answer to that question before you ask it. So
Absolutely. And I think, Mike, you would definitely want to coach your seller if they were going to be an active participant in how they want to respond to any questions like that. Because I could see that opening up a whole bunch of fair housing issues depending on how they answer that question.
yeah. Hey, Steve, let me go ahead and ask you a question. What so you I know that you've scheduled your first virtual open house for this coming weekend. Can you tell me your experience with your sellers? Because I think there's some people on here that maybe haven't done one before, and I think what your experience is so far just with the sellers would be something that everyone would like to hear.
Yeah, so I actually chatted with my sellers about the possibility of doing this. I think it was Wednesday, and I was actually at the property. It's vacant, but I was actually at the property, and I gave them a call and I said, "Hey, we're going to try this. We're going to expose it to the largest pool of potential buyers. We're going to create an event. I'm going to promote it on Facebook. I'm also going to utilize the tools that our internet vendor is provided with e-cards and other things." And I think it's really important if you really think about the virtual open house. There's some difference in promotion as far as on Facebook and doing some classified advertising. But I think there's also an opportunity to engage your sphere of influence through the use of e-cards. And I'm using it. You might think I've set mine up for an hour. You might think that's a long period of time, and we'll see because it's a learning experience. But I actually sent an e-card out yesterday to my sphere of influence, who I already have uploaded into our CRM, and just invited them to take a look at it. It's my first my first ever virtual open. This might be the new norm. Come and experience it. And even if they're not interested in the property, I'm happy to answer any questions that they have regarding the real estate market as a whole. So, I'm looking at it as an opportunity to connect with not only buyers, but my past clients as well.
Yeah, good points. And I do want to point something out there. I did see a really good question that was just asked actually, because I had mentioned, I guess a virtual open house and then a showing. I'm talking about two different things here, and I probably should have worded that differently when I was mentioning it. But I believe also that, well, I already know this. I don't know if you saw the press release from Redfin from about a week ago or so, that they had launched the ability to request a virtual showing request instead of the showing request we're all used to, which is in person. And I know as a tech platform, we're launching that support and that availability. And I think you're going to see some of that, especially in some markets where a virtual showing request is made. This is something different from an open house, and we'll have additional training on that and how to do that. You certainly wouldn't want to do that via Facebook Live. That's more of a one-to-one stream to almost like you're doing a showing to a person. It's just done virtual, with a stream. So that I am talking two different things with that. Was there anything else? We're at a half hour in, and I have about 10 minutes of some tips and tricks and other things I want to give. Is there anything else that the three of you would want to mention or add that hasn't been shared already?
I will. There's two types of marketing here, right? There's the marketing for the property and the marketing that helps us. And this is a great opportunity to increase the touches on your current sphere as well in a more sensitive way. Not a, hey, are you going to buy or sell kind of way, but a, look what we're doing. Come see this. Almost as Steve mentioned, come see this. Let's take a look, see how we're doing things a little bit differently. Give me some feedback, that kind of way, instead of just being salesy with it as well.
Yeah, good point. Steve or Melanie, do you have anything else that you would like to add?
I would just say, excuse me, when you're doing the video, like sort of what Sean was saying, like, just allow your personality to come out, be authentic, be yourself, so that people can really get to know you and know, how, people, like they always say, people like to work with people they know and trust, and being on video is a great way for people to get to know you and trust you before they actually meet you face to face.
Well, and I would add, I want to kind of jump on and expound on what Sean, talked about not being salesy, and kind of being sensitive to some of the underlying feelings that are going on in our community right now. And not, I've seen a lot of promotion on Facebook that's more about, it almost seems like it's more, look at me, I'm still doing business, or it can be construed that way. And you don't know if there's somebody in the community who's really upset that isn't an essential service and can't be working. And I'm afraid that, if we come across of being too salesy and using it as a promotional tool, of the backlash that can, we can receive from that, rather than being sensitive to some of those issues that are out there right now.
Yeah, good. I'll tell you what, really good tips from all of you. Thank you for all attending. Sean, Steve, and Melanie, and sharing. I want to go through, I'm going to go ahead and mute you guys. At least I think, or maybe Noelle can. She's better at doing that than me. But let me go ahead and go through just a few things, some tips that I want to give and some suggestions. And then I want to mention some things with upcoming webinar. First of all, I did do a quick feature comparison so you could see it, personal versus business for Facebook Live. Both sides can go live now. It's very easy. If you haven't done it, you can just do it now and test it. Pretty simple. Only the business side, for now at least, can schedule a live event. So you can pre-schedule one from a business page. Both of them, you can invite friends to watch, but again, I wouldn't just trust that for the promotion. Streaming from your phone from the personal is pretty easy. Business, it gets pretty cumbersome for a live scheduled event, streaming from your phone. So you can have some hurdles trying to do that. It is possible, but isn't that simple all the time. In both, obviously, you have the video available afterwards. So as was mentioned, I believe Sean did mention it, being able to have that video that you could then leverage through other channels is really good. Some other things that I want to mention is, I think some of these are really important. Some of these are really going to be changing, and there's one I do need to kind of add to this. But one, get consent from your sellers to do a live virtual open house. Make sure they're okay with it. It was already mentioned, but I want to point that out. Check with your real estate firm on consent, especially a broker of record. Just make sure that they're good with it. I don't know why they wouldn't, but they may know of some new regulations that are in place in your state or your area as a result of COVID-19, which some areas do have some new restrictions. And so you really need to pay attention to those things. So check with your MLS as well on any regulation and rules. Some of the MLSs are enacting some new rules quickly here. If you can, just one little tip that I kind of had just from us doing all the videos we do, if you're allowed, it's not required, but you could have someone else be the videographer as you're walking through and giving a tour of the house. Be on time. I know that goes without being said, but be on time. Here's something that I've seen done with like Facebook Live, actually from realtors, where I thought, wow, they needed, if they would have had a simple microphone with a windsock on it, it would have been a lot better. So beware of wind noise outside on windy days. If you're going to walk through around the outside, and if it's windy, that can really be picked up by the phone, and you hear all that wind. So having an external mic would be helpful with that. Treat it like a guided tour. This is your time to shine. So it's your time to really give a guided tour is what it is. It's a different mindset than a traditional open house. But also remember, this isn't a TV production. It does not have to be perfect. You're going to make mistakes. That's okay. I think that's the human side of this. And I think that even adds a better touch to it than a quote unquote produced video of sorts. Some other things that I want to mention is, if you are doing a Facebook Live, the Facebook does have a URL that can link up to your current live stream. And it's, for mine, it'd be facebook.com/MikeMeinert/live. For you, it's facebook.com/whatever your page URL or username is, and then /live. If you go to that, it will go to the then current live stream on your page or your personal account. So I just want to point that out. So you might want to start your video maybe a couple minutes early. Something else too that I wanted to point out, I know I'm moving quick through some of these things, but here's a couple tips. I don't necessarily recommend running out and getting stuff. I think go ahead and try it. And if you find that you want to have an external mic, then you could get one. Here's one, it's $49. It does come with a windsock. So some of these are really good to use. I do want to point something out with microphones, because I do recordings with my phone and I do use an external mic for a lot of videos that I produce. The microphones, if you have an iPhone, a newer iPhone, it doesn't have a normal headphone jack, but those come with those little adapters. Some of you may just, why do I need that? And you pitch it. But that little adapter, most of these headphones are standard headphone, or most of these mics are standard headphone jacks. So you need to use that little adapter on an iPhone. Then also a stabilizer, you can always get one of those, and it can also act as a little tripod. So, you can do things like that. That can be helpful. Something I want to point out is we have some things coming this week and this coming week, and they're just informational webinars. We'll put the schedule out. I'll show you how to find it. But we're going to do some training on Facebook Live. We have some stuff we're putting together already for that. Also for Zoom. So that's the Zoom icon down below. I think Zoom would be very useful, especially for a showing, not necessarily an open house, but a showing. If someone wants to get a virtual showing of a house, Zoom's a great tool to use. We're putting together resources for that stuff and videos and handouts to help you. But then also here are two other things that I want to mention, two other channels or two other options. There's something called YouTube Premiere, and then Facebook Premieres as well. And then I'd already mentioned Zoom. YouTube Premiere and Facebook Premieres these are newer features that typically they're for broadcasters. Like at Delta, we would use stuff like this, but let me explain what those are. What those give you the ability to do is you could pre-record a video, but let me don't discount it yet. So you could pre-record a video. So you could go to the open house, be talking about be doing the walkthrough, maybe do your 20-minute walkthrough of that open house. Then you have that pre-recorded video. Then what you can do with YouTube Premiere and Facebook Premieres is you can upload that video and schedule it to go live at the time of your open house. So let's say you did one today and you uploaded it to YouTube Premiere and you scheduled it for Sunday at 1. Maybe your open house is from 1 to 1:20. I'll give you an example there. And then what happens when that goes live at 1 o'clock on Sunday, you can actually be sitting at home and be on chat with people that are watching it. So you're chatting with them live, if you will, as they're watching a pre-recorded video. So some neat things there, some neat tools that you could potentially leverage for doing virtual open houses. And that, again, that's YouTube Premiere and Facebook Premieres. And we'll do some videos on those or some training on those next week and have some resources on those as well. So in order to, get notified of our upcoming training that we have, because those are not scheduled yet. They'll get scheduled here in the next day. We'll get them on the calendar and get the schedule out. What I would recommend at this point is what's probably best is just to subscribe to us on Facebook and turn on notifications. So it's under Delta Media Group. If you just search for Delta Media Group, you can find us, or it's facebook.com/Delta Media Group with no spaces. And then if you like us and then turn on notifications, then you'll get notified, and we will post these on Facebook. So those are some alternative channels, so to speak, that you might find useful. So before I end here, Melanie and Steve and Sean, anything that you guys would add? I just unmuted you guys, I think, or Steve, you need to unmute yourself, it looks like. Anything that you guys would add before we wrap up?
No, I think, Mike, you're exactly right. It doesn't need to be a TV production at this point. Melanie said, get your personality to shine through. And I think a lot of times, kind of the guerrilla marketing You know, the non-professional sometimes can get your personality through a lot more than the rehearsed production type video that's out there.
Yeah, I think it is important. Don't be afraid to make mistakes. The only thing worse than doing it poorly is not doing it at all. And I know I just read that our CEO of Ohio Realtors, Scott Williams, said that we're open for business, but it's not business as normal. Or as Andy says, it's the new normal. And we can, I don't want to say take advantage of this situation, but we can definitely provide the best service to our clients through avenues such as this.
Yes, I agree. I think doing this before you feel 100% ready is okay, because no one feels that way when you are doing a live video or anything like that. So getting yourself out there, and like Sean said, this is just a new way to support our clients and to give the best service that we can.
Awesome. Well, hey, thank you, everyone, and especially, you know, Melanie, Steve, and Sean. I really appreciate your time, because you volunteered to do this, so I really do appreciate that. Thank you, and thank you for sharing. And this webinar is recorded, so we will have this available afterwards. So you'll get an email with a link to it, and if you want to share it, feel free to do so. So thank you, everyone, and have a great weekend.